Welcome to the Ask Faleskini podcast with a guest. I'm proud to present Dr. Aumatma. Uh, Welcome to my show, and I'm really excited to talk about the topic of fertility. And you're one of the leading experts in the field, and I would like to pick your brain today for our listeners.
Yeah.
But before we do that, please tell us more about yourself. What is your story? How did you end up in this field?
Thank you so much for having me, Peter. And yes, I am a naturopathic doctor by training. So that basically means that I approach health and wellness from a experience of me as a whole person, mind, body, spirit, not just our body or what can I do about my hormones. It's really like an all-in-one experience, right? And in some ways, I had a early midlife crisis. I was married to a man in my early 30s who wanted to have children. And every time he would talk about children, my body, my spirit, my intuition was going, no. And I was like, oh crap, what is happening? What is going on? And it led me into a lot of research in trying to figure out what can I do? Do I want to have children or not? I decided that I did want a child, but probably not with him. So that led me to a divorce very early in life and down the path of really like trying to understand what it is about fertility. Like, is my fertility going to decline? What is that going to look like? When will I be able to find someone new and potentially have a child? So it led me into all kinds of territory that I would not have expected to be going through in my early 30s. But it was the wake up call that I needed to really reflect on where I was, who I was with. Was it the right person? Did I want to create a family in this environment? And when those answers were no, it was like, okay, well, you better start doing something different because if you keep going on the path you're going on, it's never going to happen. So I did end up like in my work life, I was talking about fertility and the research that I was doing, and people were like, "Oh my gosh, you can help me get pregnant." And I didn't realize what a huge problem it was till I landed upon it. And I was like, "Oh my God, these women are coming out of everywhere wanting support." Didn't know it was such a big problem. So I started helping them and they started having babies. And then in my personal life, I got the divorce. I met my now husband weeks after my divorce finalized, and we had a child in my late 30s. So I did end up being the older mom, geriatric pregnancy, and all of that. And really came to like the merging of my personal life and professional life was being reflected, and it has been what I've continued doing and helping people with since.
Amazing. I have so many questions for you. So, I really like how you address the topic. So, fertility is not just about the body. You said that you're working on mind, body, and spirit. Can we touch this topic a bit? You hinted at uh, your experience, but can we go in a bit deeper, but not necessarily in your experience, but how this is interconnected? Because
Mhm.
we're somehow convinced that fertility is all about the body, and we
Uh,
just have to pick the right supplements,
and
and we have to be fit, and that's
yeah,
it.
totally.
But as you mentioned, uh, many times the fertility is about choices, it's about psyche, it's about unconscious.
Mhm.
Can you
Yeah, absolutely.
please elaborate more on the topic?
Absolutely. So, fertility is first, in terms of holism, fertility is not just the woman, it's the man and the woman, right?
Mhm.
Together, you are creating this human. And both of your mind, body, spirit are involved in creating that human. So I can give you an example. One of my early patients was a 49-year-old male. I will always remember him because he's like, I don't believe in anything you do. He's like, work with my wife. I don't care what you're doing. I don't want to talk to you. And it took us several weeks of me talking to his wife and supporting her, and her hormones were getting better. And then finally he said, fine, I'll have my appointment with you now. So in that appointment, he tells me he's in chronic pain all the time for the last 3 years, and they have a 3-year-old child. So let's put that to the side. And then I'm asking him about this pain. What are you doing to manage it? And he says, he has 3 doctors that he goes to manage his pain naturally. He has a chiropractor, an osteopath, and an acupuncturist. So he's going to all 3 of these appointments every single week for the last 3 years to manage the pain. And quote unquote, managing the pain means he goes from standing up to laying down. He never sits. He cannot sit. If he sits, he gets more pain, and that's it. So his commute to work, I this was in the Bay Area, so he would commute from the East Bay to the South Bay where he worked at Facebook, or Apple or something, some tech company, and it would be a 2.5 hour bus ride that he would be standing for, and he would be like trying to do his work while he's standing. So it was not a great way to live. Yeah. And here they are, they're working with me for fertility. So the common sense thing would be like, okay, well, what do we do about your sperm and all of this? My approach was, let's work on the pain. And he's like, that's bullshit. I've worked on everything. There's nothing you can do. And I'm like, okay, are you willing to just give it a few appointments to try? I'm not charging you anything, like you've already paid to work with me. It's nothing extra. And he was like, okay, fine, whatever. So we're addressing his pain through a mind body technique.
Mm-hmm.
And what I discover in the process is that his pain is from this idea that he is too old to have children. He had a father that was 50 when he was 5. And his story about that was, because my father is old, he can't play with me. So he created this whole scenario of pain to keep from being able to engage with his 3-year-old child. So remember I said he had a 3-year-old? His pain started basically when that child was born. So he was holding on to this trauma from his childhood.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't sound like a trauma, but his brain decided that that was a big problem and that he should never repeat that problem. And the way he gets out of that problem is by being in pain. So some would say he makes that problem worse by being in pain, but whatever. So we worked on this idea for 6 weeks or so. He comes back, and actually he didn't even come back. 6 weeks later, his wife is pregnant. They had been trying for 2.5 years. So she's finally pregnant, and he's out of pain. She's like, I don't know what you did to him, but he no longer needs the 3 appointments a week. He's completely pain-free. And it was basically like working through his fear that if he was quote unquote older dad, he would have a hard time connecting with his child, playing with his child. Being a dad of 2 is even more problematic than a parent of 1. So he had all these fears that were blocking him from being able to live the life that he wanted to live. So that is an example of how our mind and spirit are playing a role in whether or not we're allowing ourselves to have the lives that we want to have.
Amazing story. Now I would like to get more into buzzwords.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
I would like to talk about burnout and survival mode, because according to my experiences in my practice, people that are in burnout or in survival mode, that is, let's say, another way to put it, they have problem conceiving children, and they need to get out of the burnout and out of the survival mode in order to be able to let's say, to meet their biological markers to be able to conceive. What's your experience with burnout and survival mode?
I have had very similar experience. I think that it's very hard to conceive a child from an empty bucket. So if
Mhm.
we think about burnout as just like kind of the flat line, our body is doing what it can to survive, not thrive. And in that place, it becomes very hard to have extra reserves to grow a whole another human, right? So, especially true for women, but also true to a certain extent for men. If they're running on empty, it's really hard to imagine, like, oh, yes, let's make a child. And a lot of people are trying to do it still, right? They could be aware that they're burnt out, they're tired, they're exhausted all the time. They maybe are not even getting good quality sleep. It's they know that something is out of whack in their bodies. And yet they think that the right approach is to override this experience and say, ah, it's not going to get any better, so I should just have a child now. Unfortunately or fortunately, really, our body is helping to protect us from that experience. And the way that it does that is if you are in survival mode, it is more frequent that you're spending more and more of your time in fight or flight type of survival. Everything comes into your life. You're like, oh my gosh, I got to fight this. I got to move through it. I got to do what I need to do to survive. And in that state, we can forget about having safety, which is our nervous system saying everything is good. I'm not in a fight or flight state. And if we are not in a safety mode, the survival mechanism is overriding the reproduction mechanism. So it's sort of like our brain is getting a signal that we're fighting the lion in the jungle instead of what we need for reproduction, which is I am safe. Does that make sense? So
Yes.
we have one or two of these modes. We can either be in survival or we can be in safety. And every time we drop out of safety into survival, our reproductive system just turns off. That's the protective mechanism of the body to make sure and ensure that we can have a child when it's healthy for us to have a child. So it's our body is trying to protect us. Our body is also protecting the future baby that we will bring into the world. Oh, if you're in the jungle fighting a lion, you probably shouldn't be procreating right now. So the body says, "Oh, we don't need that. Let's turn it off."
Mhm.
It's the one system in our body that's never needed for our own survival. So it's the first system that the body can say, ah, not needed. Let's turn it off. I'm trying to conserve resources. I'm trying to save as much of my resources for existence and survival. So let me turn off the things that I don't need so that I can conserve more of my resources. It would be like, oh, I have less money in the bank account. Let me cancel all the extra subscriptions for Netflix and HBO and whatever. Like you're getting rid of the fluff so that you can focus on what you absolutely need, like water and gas and the mortgage and the roof over your head. So the body's doing the same thing, right? Our
Mhm.
body has that mechanism built in, and it can say, oh, the biggest bulk of our life force energy actually goes into reproduction. So turning that system off actually gives us a lot more of our energy back so that we can survive and fight off whatever lion we were fighting off in the jungle instead of procreating.
That's interesting. I would like to go a bit back when you explained about your client, patient that he had this traumatic experience from his childhood. And my experience is that there are three things blocking the fertility in either a man or or women, and that are traumas, fears, and grudges. Would you agree with that? Because I do believe that is the fastest way to, let's say, um, enable flow of energy through the body if we uh, get rid of these resistors,
Mhm.
as I call it,
Yeah.
in energetic
Yep.
way.
Yep. I agree with you. I think I call it removing the blocks. So removing
Hmm.
the blocks is one of the first things that we need to do. And for a lot of us, those blocks are things that we are holding on to from our previous experiences. Sometimes we made those decisions very unconsciously from the need for protection, right? So
Hmm.
I like in my experience, I've seen a lot of women with fibroids and endometriosis that have an extreme trauma history, rape, sexual molestation, abuse of some sort that they have inherited and absorbed into their body, and it will often grow into these fibroids. So we have kind of a physical response to something emotional and even something generational. So you may not even understand or know that your great grandmother had this abuse and you have epigenetically kept inheriting it throughout these
Hmm.
generations. So there's many levels to that, like trauma or fears that are keeping us stuck in the patterns that we have.
Okay, now to something more tangible. How important is detox in the whole scheme of things when we're talking about fertility? Because everyone is talking about microplastic, um, all these hormone replacement treatments, and perimenopause and stuff like that. But we know that that there are females that are able to conceive in their 60s even. So this perimenopause, how important is this, and how important is the whole body detox and getting the right weight and all, um, getting, let's say, hormones in check for fertility.
uh, I think that perimenopause is getting a lot of buzz
Hmm.
that is good for awareness, and I think a little bit maybe exaggerated than actually needs to be. And what I mean by that is yes, our hormones are shifting, but for someone who's now in her mid late 40s, I don't have perimenopause. That's
Hmm.
not a thing. And I think the reason for that is because I opt to live a lifestyle that is supportive to my hormones, to all
Hmm.
of my hormones, not just my reproductive hormones. So I think that a lot of the perimenopause, quote unquote, symptoms that a lot of women experience are coming from not living in alignment with the hormones that they have in their bodies. So that's part A. Menopause is definitely real. Like, eventually, we will all be in menopause, and there's nothing to necessarily do. I think it's a very natural piece of our life cycle. And the idea of fertility being affected at certain ages. So there's this kind of fertility drops off of a cliff at 35. By 40, you pretty much are going to have struggles getting pregnant. I would say it's not super correct to associate age with the decline of hormones. And I think that there's a lot of layers of what's happening that is playing a role in what's going on with our hormones. And toxins are absolutely a piece of that puzzle. We are exposed, an average female has applied over 126 toxins and chemicals onto her skin before she leaves the house in the morning.
Mhm.
So the exposure to these toxins, even if in microdoses for a long period of time, are certainly going to have an effect on our body if our body's not able to detox it appropriately. So we do need to prioritize detox. There's huge value in getting rid of things like microplastics, phthalates, which is another big one that is an endocrine disruptor. So phthalates are going to be everything fragrance, all the things that smell good, your candles, your air fresheners, stuff like that. And then and glyphosates. So those are my big three that are going to have the highest ROI on fertility, female hormones, male hormones actually also, because of the endocrine disruption aspect. They are playing a feedback loop in the body that says the body should stop making the hormones that it's making, in men testosterone, in women estrogen, because there's so much of it floating around from these chemicals that our body's being introduced to. So if we can help to get rid of some of that load, then often our endocrine system resets and it says, oh, I actually do need to make these hormones again. Let's go back and make those. So toxins, getting rid of toxins, honestly, as quickly and as early in life as we can. So if you're 40, now is the time to start. If you're 30, now is the time to start. If you're 20, now is the time to start, right? Like the less, the better. And most of the detox is avoidance. So, like, I have a 7-year-old child, and for some reason, he loves to do the things that we don't want him to do. And one of those things is plastic water bottles. For some reason, the water out of a plastic water bottle tastes 200 times better than his glass water bottle that's purified water. Right? It's filtered, it's purified. It's like the best top level water that you could get. Yet he will always opt for the plastic bottle. And so little things like that are so seem like very low on the reward scale that actually make a huge difference. And it's going to be better for him in the long run to have avoided the plastic bottles as much as we could possibly avoid. So, he has his occasional exposure at a birthday party or something like that, but most of the time he does not get plastic water bottles. We don't have them in the house. So we do as much avoidance as possible because these toxins are accumulating over time. So at 40, you're going to have a lot more accumulation than at 30 and going backwards. So the less we accumulate over our lifetimes, the better. And the longer that our hormones are more likely to stay balanced if we have lesser exposure.
Okay, one more topic before we conclude. Diet. How important is diet to our fertility? And are you a fan of fasting or intermittent fasting?
Sure. Okay. So diet is crucial to fertility and to hormones, but diet is going to vary a lot from person to person. So, what's the right diet for me is going to be very different from what's the right diet for you. We want to optimize the diet in a general way for everyone, eating 8 to 9 servings of fruits and vegetables, more vegetables than fruit, getting the most macronutrients that we can possibly get, avoiding things like refined carbohydrates, refined processed food. All of that is going to stay the same across the board. But when it comes to very individualized things like should I intermittent fast or not, I would say more likely than not, the answer for men is going to be yes, probably fine. And for women, that answer is going to be probably not. So men and women are very different. Women, when they intermittent fast, if they are menopausal, can be a totally different thing. But if you are trying to conceive, then intermittent fasting is the exact opposite of what you want for your body. You want to be fueling appropriately. You want to actually getting the well spaced out meals is ideal for our blood sugar. So there's a lot of different caveats for supporting the body to increase the level of safety that it feels. And blood sugar is one of the things that it's going to be safe or not safe. So if you can imagine, like, if you're in the jungle and you're hunting and you don't have time to eat, you're going to be like fasting for 12 hours while you're hunting. That's going to take a hit on your degree of safety. And in a natural environment, most of the time, a woman who is potentially pregnant or trying to get pregnant shouldn't be out hunting. So we want to make it make sense for the life cycle and for the phase of hormones that she's in particular.
Okay, before we wrap up, I would like to know, let's call it the trade secret. What's your trade secret? What is the one thing that you would like our listeners and our viewers to take from this interview?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say the one thing would be get to the root of the problem. So there is, and we've talked about it a little bit, it's mind, body, and spirit. The root of your problem might be the trauma that you experienced at 8 years old. I don't know what that is, but getting to the root is essential for helping support your fertility and not needing to go through extreme treatments to have the family that you desire. So I would say do what you can to really understand what's at the root of it. I do have an app that is helping support people with this assessment to figure out the root. We only focus on the body. We do not talk about mind and spirit on this app. It's way too much information. But even in the body system, the root is not always the hormones. The root can be gut inflammation or blood sugar imbalance or thyroid or adrenals, like so many hormones that are interplaying and affecting whether or not reproduction is on or off. So getting to the root is kind of the leading principle if you want to have that family that you really desire and you don't want to have to spend 100 grand to do it.
Thank you very much for all this information. Where can our listeners and viewers find you?
Yeah, awesome. So you want to go to madrefertility.com for the app. So you can do this assessment online. It's free. And then it will guide you to diet and supplement and lifestyle and all the things. And then for me personally, you can follow me on Instagram at Holistic Fertility Doctor.
Thank you. Thank you very much for all these insights.
You're very welcome.